Being a world champion definitely earns you a lot of respect on the grid, but as Lewis Hamilton, a driver with 7 F1 titles, has come to realize, it doesn't necessarily shield you from criticism. From Fernando Alonso to Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen and Michael Schumacher, these are what F1 legends think of Lewis Hamilton. Lando Norris. Lando Norris was only 9 years old back in 2008 when Lewis Hamilton won his first title with McLaren. Today he's become McLaren's main driver and he's looking to steer the British team back to its glory days. And who better to learn from than Lewis Hamilton, the man behind the wheel during McLaren's last glory days. It's growing our relationship. I think even over the last couple of months we've been getting to know each other a bit more and chatting a bit more, and it's a pretty cool thing. I have so much respect for him and what he's been able to achieve, and still so much respect for what he's doing now. Lando Norris also compares Lewis Hamilton's dominance at Mercedes with Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna's dominant era in the 90s and 2000s. You always hear the stories of when there was Ayrton Senna or Michael Schumacher, and in this period it's been Lewis. You hear about the battles he has had, and those guys had with Alain Prost and Nigel Mansell. In 20 or 30 years' time, it's going to be the same about Lewis racing Seb and Max Verstappen. Despite having the utmost for Hamilton, Norris knows that to achieve his dream of steering McLaren back to greatness, he would have to defeat his idol on the track. And he's totally up for the challenge. In a 2022 interview, the young British driver was asked if he believes he can defeat his idol, and his response was quite interesting. There's a tough question. I've got to say yes. By no means would it be easy. Lewis is one of the greatest ever, but if you want to do well, you've got to believe you're better than the rest. Now that's the spirit you want your driver to have. Nico Rosberg. Like Lando Norris, Nico Rosberg believed he had what it takes to defeat Hamilton, and he, in fact, went on to do it. But he had it at the detriment of a lifelong friendship he shared with the 7-time world champion. As teenagers, Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton were best of friends. They rode unicycles together and often competed against themselves to see who was the fastest at eating pizza. Their friendship continued even as they ascended through the ranks of motor racing, from Formula 3 to Formula 1. And as fate would have it, they found themselves racing for Mercedes in 2013. Many thought at the time that the bromance between Hamilton and Rosberg would blossom even more now that they were racing for the same team, but that wasn't the case. Instead, they became bitter rivals on and off the track. Following a series of controversial team orders and collisions, the strain in the relationship between Hamilton and Rosberg began to appear. The cracks became even more significant in the 2016 season, where they went head-to-head for the F1 title. As the tension hit new heights, Rosberg made a significant revelation about the relationship of the pair, saying, "I have huge respect for him, but, well, we're not best friends at the moment." Speaking further, Rosberg said the intense competition between them at the time was the biggest strain to their friendship. That's the difficulty between us now. We're just both so competitive, and that makes it difficult to be friends because the competition is so extreme. It was the same back then. How many pizzas could we eat? Who could run fastest from the lift to the hotel room? It would be competition all the way, but there was not the surrounding influence with the team, the media, and money. That makes it difficult now. The German admits that Hamilton has always edged him in most contests, but he was now going to put up a fight of his own. "He's done some great things, and he's been beating me. I have to fight back, and that's the awesome challenge." True to his words, Nico Rosberg fought back and won the 2016 F1 Drivers' Championship, edging out Lewis Hamilton by just 5 points. And despite a controversial moment in the race where Hamilton ignored team orders to speed up and threaten Rosberg's victory, the German driver had some nice things to say about his teammate. "I owe some words to Lewis. He's one of the best in the world, one of the best ever, surely. So it's incredibly intense to race him. I've got great respect for him because he does an incredible job." Continuing his speech, Rosberg expressed satisfaction that he was finally able to get one over his arch rival. Hamilton, for sure, would have loved to get his revenge, but those plans were squashed when Nico Rosberg announced his retirement from F1 just 5 days after winning the title. However, nearly a decade after all the drama, Hamilton and Rosberg have mended the cracks in their relationship. Discussing the new state of his relationship with Hamilton in a 2022 interview, Rosberg said, "We live in the same building in Monaco. We shared the lift this morning. I was with my 2 daughters going to the trampoline at the pool, and he was going to the racetrack." Valtteri Bottas. As we've seen from Nico Rosberg's time at Mercedes, driving alongside Hamilton can be intense. Rosberg had the mental strength to deal with this intensity, but Valtteri Bottas struggled to live through it. Bottas was Hamilton's teammate for 5 years, and in those years, he played second to the 7-time champion. He lost the joy of racing and almost threw in the towel after watching Hamilton win the 2018 F1 title. The human mind is strange in a way that sometimes you go into dark places. You lose the joy in things, and I just completely lost the joy of F1 and racing in F1. I was almost angry at F1. The gap between both drivers was obvious, particularly on the track, and no matter what Bottas did, he just couldn't defeat Hamilton. Just because of the fact that I couldn't understand and take the fact I couldn't beat Lewis in those 2 years, I put so much pressure on myself. Towards the end of 18, especially when I started to have a support role in the team, I really couldn't take it. I really struggled. It was not fun. The last 4 or 5 races of 18 were more painful because you should enjoy F1 and it is pretty cool, but it wasn't that at all. The Finnish driver would eventually leave Mercedes at the end of 2021, bringing an end to his stint at the Silver Arrows. Following the announcement of Bottas' exit, Hamilton penned an emotional tribute to him. I'm immensely proud to have worked alongside Valtteri Bottas for the last 5 years. Together, we've been part of a team that has delivered 4 Constructors' Championships, and we've motivated one another to keep pushing through the ups and downs. He has been the best teammate I've had the pleasure of working with. Your speed and resilience has been impressive, but where you truly stand out to me is the human being you are. You are greater than you know, and I know there's a bright future ahead for you. Since leaving Mercedes, Bottas seemed to rediscover his happiness. I just feel a bit happier in life overall. The season is probably the most enjoyable so far. Okay, maybe you don't always remember things, but it really feels like I'm enjoying F1 more than ever. George Russell. While Bottas struggled to accept his position as a supporting driver to Lewis Hamilton, George Russell seemed to settle into that role nicely when he joined Mercedes in 2022. I feel incredibly fortunate to be with a team such as Mercedes and teammates with Lewis. He's really pushed me to my limits as a driver. I've learned a huge amount going up against somebody like him in the same car. There is no better reference. For Russell, the opportunity to race alongside Hamilton was in itself a privilege. So instead of complaining about his position in the team as a supporting driver, he braced up for the challenge. And at the end of his debut season with the team, he finished ahead of Lewis Hamilton. If you told me at the start of the season I'd finish ahead, I would have been incredibly proud and incredibly happy with that, because 9 times out of 10, if you finish ahead of Lewis Hamilton, you're probably going to be world champion. Charles Leclerc. Beyond Hamilton's poor performances in 2022, the 7-time world champion also faced some off-track issues, including racist abuse from F1 legend Nelson Piquet. In those very low moments, many drivers, including Charles Leclerc, expressed their unwavering support for the British racer. Knowing Lewis since I arrived in Formula 1, he has always been extremely respectful to me and everyone that he meets. Those values should be the standard towards anybody around the world. The comments made towards Lewis should not be tolerated, and we should continue to push for a more diverse and inclusive sport. Those comments were made sometime in 2022, but a peek into the archives shows that Leclerc has always admired Lewis Hamilton. In 2019, the Monegasque driver said he doesn't mind having Hamilton at Ferrari. Of course, I would welcome Lewis. We are in F1 and we want to fight against the best. I have a big opportunity to have had Seb next to me, who is a 4-time world champion. And I have learned a lot from him, so you can always learn from these types of champions. At the time, this looked like a goose chase, but 5 years later, Leclerc's wish is finally about to come to pass after it was announced that Lewis Hamilton would join Ferrari for the 2025 F1 season. Before we reveal what other F1 legends like Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen think of Lewis Hamilton, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel so you get notified first every time we post thrilling videos like this one. Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton are 2 of the oldest drivers in F1, and ironically, they're also the protagonists behind one of the longest running rivalries in the sport. Since the 2007 season, when they both raced at McLaren, both drivers remained a constant feature in F1. And so has their rivalry. After an incident between the pair at the 2022 Belgian Grand Prix, Alonso called Hamilton an idiot who only knows how to drive and start him first. And even though the Spaniard has no qualms admitting Hamilton's greatness, he believes the Mercedes driver has been very lucky. I still think he is one of the best in history, but at the same time, he has been lucky, or is known to be in a dominant car for many years. Max Verstappen. This video would probably not be complete without sampling Verstappen's thoughts on Lewis Hamilton. After all, it was him who dethroned Hamilton as the reigning world champion in 2021. During that remarkably intense season, both drivers were the center of attraction in every race, and things understandably got heated a couple of times. For instance, Verstappen gave Hamilton the middle finger and called him a stupid idiot after both drivers came wheel to wheel during the practice session of the 2021 US Grand Prix. That same season, Verstappen was airlifted from the British Grand Prix to the hospital after Hamilton rammed into Verstappen at the Copse corner. One British Grand Prix later, Hamilton and Charles Leclerc had a wheel-to-wheel battle. The 7-time champion seized the opportunity to shade Verstappen, saying Leclerc managed the situation well because a very sensible driver. The Red Bull driver fired back with a cheeky response. I think it's quite nice. At 37 years of age, you can still learn how to hit an apex. He is learning, so that is positive. It is also good for younger drivers to know that you are still learning when you are 37 years old. Regardless of their animosity, Verstappen says he respects Hamilton and everything he has achieved in the sport, but he doesn't feel like the British racing legend respects him enough. People have told me that he doesn't use my name. I was always taught that you have to respect what people have achieved in sport. I have no problem with what Lewis has achieved. He is one of the best ever. I know it is not only the car he's been driving. That helps. We all know that. But you still have to beat your teammate, and Lewis has done that consistently. I think you have to acknowledge the person has done an amazing job as well. The issue of whether Hamilton respects Verstappen is debatable, but I think we can all agree that they are not best of friends, at least at the moment. And as long as Verstappen keeps denying Hamilton of that record-breaking 8th world title, the hate between them is bound to continue. Sebastian Vettel. Like Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel has had a long and storied rivalry with Lewis Hamilton. At the 2017 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Vettel appeared to deliberately make contact with Hamilton's car in retaliation to the Mercedes driver brake testing him. A furious Hamilton describes Vettel's actions as disgusting. Vettel apologized for his reckless driving, and in the end, what started as a controversial moment proved to be the turning point in their frosty relationship. I was very upset, he said. It was one of those moments where things didn't go my way and I was upset. Maybe the emotional side did take over too much, but that moment was actually a key moment. It could have made us step away from each other more or bring us together, and it brought us together. More recently, Sebastian Vettel revealed he came very close to joining Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes at some point in his career. Maybe there was a chance. I spoke with Nicky, but to be honest, it was halfway through the Ferrari period. Obviously, it would have been a big deal because Lewis was their number one, and I'm not sure whether they would have liked to have us both in the team. But I also didn't have great interest at that time because I was so committed to Ferrari. We cannot say for sure if their partnership would have been successful or not, but most fans would have given anything to see two of the best drivers in F1 history racing for the same team. Michael Schumacher. Back in 2001, Michael Schumacher graced a karting event and shared the track with some young drivers. After the session, the F1 legend noted how one of the young drivers performed remarkably better than his peers, and that young driver just happened to be 16-year-old Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton had yet to compete in a single-seater car at the time, but Schumacher had seen enough to convince him that the youngster from Stevenage was destined for greatness. He's a quality driver, very strong, and only 16, said Schumacher at the time. If he keeps this up, I'm sure he will reach F1. It's something special to see a kid of his age out on the circuit. He's clearly got the right racing mentality. 6 years later, Schumacher was asked if he thinks Hamilton could equal his record of 7 world titles, and his response was emphatic. I would say absolutely yes. Seems like Michael Schumacher saw the future. From the quote we've explored in this video, it's evident that most Formula One legends hold deep admiration and respect for Lewis Hamilton, acknowledging his remarkable achievements. Nevertheless, his on-track triumph does not make him immune to scrutiny. One driver who has had to learn this the hard way is Max Verstappen. Verstappen's meteoric rise to the pinnacle of F1 has earned him commendation and criticism, even among legends of other motorsport competitions. But who are these legends, and what exactly are they saying about Max Verstappen? Click this video to find out.